Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I will be going over the Battle of Seven Pines from May 31st to June 1st, 1862. Although the battle did not end up crushing either army, the battle had an extreme significance which I will go over in the video. To get us on track, it is May 27th, 1862, in the middle of the U.S. Civil War. Confederate General Johnston, with a large number of around 75,000 men, has spread his forces out defensively near Richmond, Virginia, capital of the Confederacy. Yet again, the Union attempted to take their capital, as they had attempted a year prior but had been pushed back at the Battle of Bull Run, which we went over last video. General George McClellan of the Union Army, with a force of some 105,000 men, an almost 30,000 man advantage, pressured the capital of the Confederacy, with some of his upper columns arriving only 30 miles away from Richmond. The Union had thus far been mostly successful in its Peninsular campaign, and its final goal was only 30 miles away. The Union could have easily overpowered the Confederate army and taken Richmond. However, McClellan had a notorious reputation of acting overly cautious, and due to bad insight and intelligence, believed that he was badly outnumbered, a fact which was very untrue. He held a large numerical advantage at the start, but as he continued to advance slowly up the peninsula, he gave time to the Confederate army to organize a line of defense from the James River southward. General Johnston, after receiving news of the Battle of Hanover Courthouse northernly in Virginia, realized that the Union Army, consisting of the renowned Army of the Potomac, was split across the Chickahominy River. He realized that units of the Union Army were still stationed south of the river next to his defense line, and that it would take time for the Union to respond if any attack were to occur on the Union in the south, as there was the large obstacle of a river crossing. It was here that he devised a clever plan. General Johnston, knowing his situation, planned to attack the Union forces in detail by assaulting two Federal corps below the river before reinforcements could arrive. If done right, this could inflict serious casualties and equipment losses on the Union, and ensure that the Union retreat from its campaign, or at the very least, delay their assault on Richmond itself. Defeat in detail is a tactic used to defeat larger but spread out armies, by engaging the spread out forces one by one with a larger army, resulting in you having a numerical advantage in the engagement, even if outnumbered at the start. Napoleon, for example, used defeat in detail in several key battles, especially in campaigns against the Austrians. Johnston would use defeat in detail as his sole tactic, by engaging the split-apart Union forces in the south with a bulk of his own Confederate forces, disorganizing the Union and inflicting heavy damage that would take much time to recover from. After a few days of planning and waiting, the day finally came on May 31st, 1862. It was now clear that the Union had exactly two corps below the river, split apart from the north. Confederate forces totaling 51,000 men with several thousand reserves, led by Confederate General Johnston, were split among a few commanders. These were Major Generals Longstreet, Huger, Smith, Magruder, Jones, McLaws, Hill, and, additionally, Brigadier Generals Whiting and Anderson. Major General Longstreet and Major General Magruder were each given command of a wing of forces. The wings consisted of several divisions led by other various commanders. The Union, totaling 105,000 men, were, as mentioned before, split apart, and only around 33,000 men in their 3rd and 4th Corps were south of the river. When the battle began, Longstreet's wing, consisting of Major Generals Huger, Hill's, and his own division, marched down the wrong road. There were several communications on behalf of the Confederates, and divisional leaders such as Huger had just woken up, while Longstreet had already begun marching. The battle was delayed due to several issues with orders and getting a head start, and after 5 hours past the scheduled start, Confederate forces grew impatient and advanced. The first combat finally commenced. It was here, on May 31st, 1862, that the first combat commenced. Major General Hill's division of around 10,000 men charged at two Union infantry divisions, the 100th and 81st New York. The Union force in the south had prepared a line of defense under some commanders, notably Brigadier General Casey. Their forces almost collapsed on the left flank, as Hill's 10,000-man charge blew past the two divisions of the 100th and 81st New York. Fierce fighting commenced, with both guns and bayonets combined, and several hundred men were killed or seriously wounded in the fighting. In the north, on Casey's line, Brigadier General Whitley and a division consisting of 5 brigades attempted to take the railroad junction at Fair Oaks Station. They managed to approach the station, but were suddenly hit by artillery fire as Union soldiers in the defensive line held close to the junction. The Confederates managed to get close, but had to put up with the Union's defense. Brigadier General Whitley attempted to assault some artillery guns on the left of the station, but was promptly stalled by the guns after they began firing back at the advancing Confederates. The Confederates in the South, with superior numbers and morale, finally broke through, seizing valuable earthworks that had been built and placed by the Union. It is here that Union General Casey's men retreated to Seven Pines. At the same time, the Union rerouted the Second Corps north of the river and attempted to cross, despite the fact that conditions to cross were not fit. After hours of fighting and the final falling back of Union forces to the Seven Pines defense line, Hill requested reinforcements from General Johnston, who only sent forward a brigade commanded by Brigadier General Richard Anderson. There were still several communication issues, and due to a deep acoustic layer, Confederate General Johnston did not hear or know the battle was going on until as late as 4 p.m., 3 hours after the first combat had commenced. In the fighting and confusion, several Confederate officers were killed and wounded. Notably some, such as Brigadier General Rains and Brigadier General Robert Rhodes, whose positions were then taken over by Colonel John B. Gordon and Colonel Alfred Colquitt. With brand new reinforcements, Confederate Brigadier General Hill ordered an attack on the new Union line at Seven Pines. He was able to send 4 regiments to flank Union Brigadier General Keyes, and the Union line collapsed once again, falling back from Seven Pines to the Williamsburg Road. Longstreet's wing had managed to push the Union back far from their original positions, but they were exhausted and had taken several casualties. One of his brigades did attempt to press on, but to no avail, as they were pushed back by Union artillery. The situation in the north at Fair Oaks Junction did not improve either, and as Union forces poured in across the river from the Second Corps, another Confederate attack under command of Colonel Evander Law failed to achieve success or take any ground. Union artillery devastated Whiteling's division attacking in the north, and several brigades suffered severe casualties trying to assault the Union position. The time had grown late, and neither side had the resources to continue fighting in the dark. Although the Confederates had achieved initial success, they were unable to push further, but it had all become clear that Confederate General Johnston's force could not continue advancing all across the peninsula. The night passed, with Union and Confederate forces camping close by each other. Some reports indicate that Union forces were only about 300 feet away from Confederate camps in some areas. In the morning, the attack began again. The scale of attack coming from the Confederate line was much reduced from the previous day. A force of some 2 brigades under Brigadier Generals Lewis Armstead and William Mahone assaulted Union forces commanded by Brigadier General Richardson. The attack progressed all right for the Confederates, but was soon stalled and ultimately called off when the Union line was sent reinforcements from Brigadier General Birney's brigade. With nowhere left to advance, the battle was called off. The Battle of Seven Pines was over. The Battle of Seven Pines was a bittersweet victory for the Confederacy. Although they were able to complete their objective of hitting the Union force and inflicting a crucial blow, the Confederates had suffered thousands of dead and wounded soldiers as a result. Union casualties had been around 1,437 dead and missing and 3,594 wounded soldiers, many of whom would die from their wounds. As for the Confederates, a total of approximately 1,385 dead and missing and 4,749 wounded would make up their casualty count. The battle had been the bloodiest since Shiloh, earlier that year. The Battle of Seven Pines was an inconclusive battle, with both beneficial and devastating effects for both sides. The Union had been driven back, and Union Commander General George McClellan soon withdrew from his failed Peninsula campaign, blaming General Casey for the failure of the Union in battle at Seven Pines, despite several mistakes being made by himself and not just Casey. Johnston ended up relieving Richmond from an impending assault, but the victory had come at a massive cost for the Confederates, losing thousands of men more than the Union, and losing valuable equipment that was less easy to replace. As well as this, a surprisingly high amount of officers had been killed and wounded in battle, leaving scars in the ranks of several brigades. Even General Johnston himself, commanding the entire Confederate Virginia Army, had been shot in the shoulder and had been hit by artillery shrapnel. Summed up, the battle bought valuable time for the Confederates, and it saw several changes of command, such as the demotion and promotion of several officers on both sides for great combat ability or lack of such. The battle had also further damaged the trust between Union General George McClellan and President Lincoln, whose relations with each other had due to McClellan's overcautious and slow stature in almost every situation. The war was still ongoing, and despite a slightly larger chance of the Union winning the conflict at this point, the end of the war was nowhere in sight. If you liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe. I will be releasing more content soon on the Civil War and several more conflicts to come. Thank you very much for watching.